Many in France thought it was a done deal. Come late May and this man would be ruling the country. But things have not gone as planned for Francois Fillon. It began after revelations that Fillon's wife Penelope had received close to $1 million of public money for work he hadn't done. It was disaster for a candidate who had based his campaign on a fight against corruption, and Fillon's initial response didn't help.
From the very beginning, I have not been treated like anyone else before the law. The calendar is totally linked to the political calendar. I am going to be questioned 2 days, that's 48 hours, before the declarations of candidacy for the presidential elections close.
The result was as expected: public outrage and protests. The troubles of the French economy and the growing sense of alienation have heightened the anger.
All the privileges of our politicians, they share it among their close relations and everything is going fine for them. There's no work in France, not for the young and not for the old, so it's unbearable.
We cannot believe someone who has lied so much, who has given advantages to his wife, his children, his family.
That stalled Fillon's campaign, and that means others, like far-right candidate Marine Le Pen and centrist contender Emmanuel Macron, have surged ahead. Former Economy Minister Macron was seen as an outsider, but he's benefited from Fillon's troubles and an uninspiring list of socialist candidates. The current nominee from the ruling French party is Benoît Hamon, and he still trails Fillon, who has fallen to third place in the polls. That's why many socialist leaders are now moving to endorse their former cabinet colleague Macron. Some polls currently say he will win with over 60% of the vote. And then there's the darling of the far right, Marine Le Pen. She's riding the wave of anti-immigrant sentiment and economic anger against the ruling elite that's sweeping most of Europe. Le Pen trails Macron in the latest polls, but her supporters say the data is flawed and that she remains very much in the race. That's as political pundits remain wary of predicting a clear winner, especially after the Brexit vote and the victory of Donald Trump. That's also why Fillon feels he still has a strong chance of pulling off an unexpected victory, and many of his supporters are sticking by him.
I am angry with the system, the judges, his supporters who have given up on him. So we have to support him, and I believe in that man and his program.
Fillon says he believes his campaign best harnesses this anger with its promise of conservatism and hope, and can still carry him to victory. And the pundits are not ready to rule him out just yet. Shoaib Hassan, the Newsmakers.
Well, joining me now from Paris is Edouard Lessarf. He is the global head of political and opinion research for Kantar Public. Thank you so much for joining us. Fillon says he is a victim of a political assassination. If you think he is, tell us who would target him and why.
Well, he claims to be that kind of victim, and actually when you look at the way the opinion did vary between about 1 month ago and right now, actually yes, he was kind of a victim in polls, but claiming being a victim means that he's directly attacking the media and the judicial system, saying that they are both attacking him. Actually, what happened is that there were a few things in the media that were rapidly, quite intensively relayed by all the media, where he is taken as someone who did a few things that might not be for the time being considered as from a judicial point of view, real problems, but from the opinion point of view, the pain is here. He has been hurt quite badly in polls, in the opinion, because of course, if ever justice says, well, there was no judicial problem with that, nevertheless, he has, of course, been impacted in the opinion, and there were something like 10% of voters that withdrawn from his voting potential. If you take the difference about a month and a half ago, it was like around 30%, is now like 20%. But claiming as a victim is also a way for him to say, I'm the kind, and that's a word he used a few days ago, I'm the new rebel of the system.
What Fillon is accused of doing, hiring family members aside,
well, actually,
this issue of taking loans from friends that he didn't declare, interest-free loans, paying for suits in cash, is that really different from what many politicians in France do anyway? Does it deserve this much attention in the media?
Well, you know, we are currently in a presidential political campaign, so whatever you can say around that kind of things, and you might consider that, of course, that kind of things might have happened to other politicians, but now the moment is so intense that anything becomes a new story. And of course, it is considered as very important also because Francois Fillon claimed in the first part of his campaign that he was Mr. Clean in a way. He was the one that would not be part of that system. And now, new allegations about what he might have done comes in perfect conflict with his former position. That's why the noise around that is so big and has such an impact.
From a PR perspective and as an observer yourself, do you think Fillon and his wife as well have handled this well? The fact that she hasn't spoken a word since this scandal broke, is that the right way to come at this as far as the French public is concerned?
Well, actually, she did spoke. She kept silent for about a month or so, and then, probably based on advice that they got, they decided that she should talk. And she had an interview in a famous Sunday newspaper called Le Journal du Dimanche, where she said a few things about her position. Well, I'm not a PR guy. I'm just looking at what the impact on the opinion. And right now, it didn't help to protect Francois Fillon in a way. But you can also consider that being around 20% in voting intentions for the time being is not that bad, considering the firmness, I would say, of the attacks he faced. So from a pure opinion point of view, he has some kind of a bedrock, something like 1 potential voters out of 5, 20%, which is quite solid, but it's a starting point. It's not sufficient to be at the second round. He's now in third position behind Marine Le Pen and behind Emmanuel Macron. So being third is certainly not sufficient to be qualified for the second round and then to be president.
That's what this really boils down to. Regardless of the scandals he's been hit with, he may or may not have made it to the second round anyway. And as for the second round, it still looks like both Macron and Fillon are ahead of who's expected to be the second person in the second round race, Marine Le Pen. Let me ask you, going forward in the election, unrelated really to Francois Fillon, are you expecting to see a repeat then of the 2002 election between Jacques Chirac and Marine Le Pen's father, Jean-Marie, in which the French public suddenly came out and rallied against this extremist right candidate? Or has so much changed in 15 years since that election? Has the public mentality changed and swung to this nationalist sentiment?
Well, it did change, of course, and the situation will be obviously quite different from the 2002 presidential election you're mentioning. Right now, in voting intentions, Marine Le Pen is ahead of everyone, with something like 26%, sometimes in some polls, 27% in voting intentions. She's leading the polls right now. And Emmanuel Macron is second, and Francois Fillon is third for the time being. So everyone has in mind, and if you ask the French population, they think about 3/4 of the French population are quite sure that she will be qualified for the second round. But only 20% of them think that she will win in the end. So there are chances, and not slight chances. The most predictable scenario right now, if you look at voting intentions, of course, we are still 40 days ahead of the election, but right now it looks like Marine Le Pen is going to be qualified for the second round, and probably, for the time being, Emmanuel Macron would be second.
Okay, we'll see if the polls can be trusted as well. Edouard Le Cerf, thank you so much for joining us from Paris on the Newsmakers.